All right, so we got everybody on. We're good. Okay, so welcome everyone to our career discovery. So our goal today is to explore how to craft your professional presence to set you up for career success. We are also going to go over towards the end of the webinar some available resources for you to take advantage of, especially for Strayer students. So we'll cover that at the end. But before we get started, I want to do a quick little intro. So Lafayette, if you can go to the next slide, please. So just really quickly, most of you, all of you know me. I've been working with Strayer, as I mentioned, now going on 2 years, different cohorts, specifically with the Strayer Business 399 course. So we are extremely excited every time we work with Strayer because we always come back with different ideas to help make the platform even more engaging for the students. So I am looking forward to this cohort and what you all are going to bring to the table for us to implement on the platform as well. So just a little bit of background about me, aside from that, is I am originally from San Antonio. I now live in Dallas. I am prior U.S. military. I was in the Air Force for about 6 years. I got my MBA from the Northward University. And my passion is around startups and working in the sales and business development side of the house. So I always encourage students, if you're looking to have a startup, or if you need a mentor, if you need any internships, any guidance as far as startup, I'm here to help you. I have over 20 years experience, and it's just something that I'm extremely passionate about. And of course, I am the co-founder of Nethubb as well. So enough about me. I'm going to talk about our star speaker today, which is Lafayette. Not only is Lafayette a dear friend of mine, but also he is our national career advisor for Nethubb. So I am extremely, extremely excited to, have him available to students to help with coaching, because he is certified in he's a certified international life coach, author, and a philanthropist. And as well, he was in the Navy and in the military as well, and is a veteran. He is also a STEM advisor for San Jacinto College in Houston, and he is also the executive director of the Pride Foundation, which is a nonprofit helping underprivileged communities, specifically get scholarships, career advice, training. So he is very involved, and that's his passion as well, is helping getting our younger generation to that next level. And I'm excited to have him on board and to help us and our students. So I'm going to turn it over to Lafayette. So please, Lafayette, tell us what is this professional presence webinar going to be about? Tell us how we can build that professional presence to build a successful career.
All right. So good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Valerie. I do really appreciate it. As she said, my passion is really helping the next generation of young people enter in the workforce, whether you're graduating high school or graduating college. The reason I'm so passionate about it is because throughout my travels, and I've worked for a lot of big companies and, school districts and all kinds of different places. One of the things that I've noticed is that the younger generation, except those that are graduating high school or graduating college, are not really prepared for the modern work environment, right? So they may have the degree or they may have the certifications or whatever qualifications it is, but they fall short when it comes to interviewing skills, when it comes to, even if you get a position, into really advancing in that position, because they don't have the necessary skill sets. And that's just a lack of experience, right? So that is my hope, my passion in life. That's why I live, is to really help our young people to become successful. That's why I connected with Val, and we're like, hey, we had the same vision. Let's do this. Let's get it done. It's what I love to do, is help young people. So that being said, and I can say young people because you see my gray hairs, right? I've earned a title of an old dude right now. So yeah, so I can say young people safely. So what we're going to do with this presentation is kind of just go through a couple of things. I know we don't really have a lot of time, so we're just going to go through the slides and feel free to be interactive, because to me every session is something that you should learn from. So don't hesitate, don't be afraid to ask questions, don't be afraid to stop me. I don't want to just read off everything to you and hope you retain it, because that's my objective, is to make sure that you learn something from our sessions. So is that everybody clear with that? So you can send me a message in the chat, which Valerie be monitoring, or you can just get on the mic or raise your hand and say, hey, please explain that, or if you want to talk about anything, please feel free. Thumbs up, everybody ready to rock and roll?
We're good.
All right. All right. So professional presence. What is professional presence? It says professional presence is the way that you conduct yourself in a professional setting. I mean, that's self-explanatory. It's the sum of your appearance, your communication skills, your demeanor, your behavior. It is the impression you make to others or on others, and it can have a significant impact on your career. Now, what does that mean as a college graduate or someone that's now entering into a professional environment, right? Because, through high school or through college, you may work some trivial jobs, retail jobs, fast food, or things that really, are less minor skill jobs, not really professional jobs. So we don't necessarily have that training, and we don't necessarily know what's expected of us once we go into the actual workforce, right? So that's what professional presence is all about, is letting people know that, hey, I am a professional, regardless of what field you're in. My profession is I'm a technologist. So, I do a lot of talking to computers, but that's also about communicating with people. And in my profession, I deal with a lot of CEOs and higher level people that they don't want to hear what the problem is. They just want to know, is it fixed, or when is it going to be fixed? Right? So I have to learn, I had to learn how to communicate with them effectively and answer their questions directly, not tell them what I think they want to hear, but tell them exactly what they want to hear, because they're very, very, very busy people. So they don't have time to, don't give me the long story, give me the short story. So that's where communication is very important. Also, presence has to do with the way that you dress, the way that you present yourself. Regardless of the job that you go into or the role that you go into, you should always be professional. One thing that my dad told me when I joined the military, he's like, whatever you do, always do to the best of your ability, because you're going to be cleaning a lot of toilets and a lot of floors, but always be the best at it and always present yourself well. So it's the same thing that when you graduate college or when you graduate high school and you're moving into the working world, you should always present yourself in a professional manner. The way that you dress, even if you're working at Burger King, make sure that your shirt is always tucked in. Make sure that your pants are always clean. Your shoes are always clean. Because, we can dive into this a little bit more, but when they're looking for managers or to promote people, those are all the things that they're looking at. I remember the last position that I had. I remember the boss told me one day after about 4 years, she said, you know what? I watch you every day, and I watch everybody that works for me every day, from the time they leave their car to the time they clock in. And I'm like, I thought about it, and the first initial thought is like, that doesn't make any sense. But it makes a lot of sense because they see how you carry yourself, right? So professional presence is always important. As long as you report to the job site, always carry yourself in a professional manner. It doesn't matter. If you got to have two personalities, hey, do it. But always have people look at you as a professional. All right. So making a good first impression, let's talk about that. We always hear the saying that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, right? So certain things, again, we can dive more into this, as in when you're going on a job interview, the latest you should be there is 15 minutes prior to your interview time, right? If your interview is at 10 o'clock and you will show up at 9:55, technically you're late. So always keep that mentality, because they're watching you from the time that you walk into the door, right, to the time that you sit down in front of them. And that's how employers are judging you. So I always tell my son the very same thing. I said, to be on time is to be late. To be early is to be on time. So think of that always, right? So that's part of the first good impression that you would make. Because when an employer looks at you, they're going to say, well, all right, well, if he showed up late for the interview, guess what? He's going to show up late for work, or she's going to show up late for work. And that's always automatically a no-go with employers, unless there's something about you that they want. But as an entry-level person, those are things that are negative. So always be on time. That's a part of it. Gain trust and credibility. Same thing. Credibility is knowing that if I say you're supposed to be at work at 7 o'clock, it doesn't mean clocking at 7 o'clock. It means you should be at your desk ready to work at 7 o'clock, right? So that's where the credibility comes in and where the trust comes in. In other words, I know that, Teresa is going to be at work on time every day, unless her car breaks down or unless it's some unfortunate thing. I can count on her because I'm telling someone that, hey, don't worry, 7 o'clock, my employee will be here. They're ready to work. So that's where gaining trust and reliability comes into play. Um, Build relationships with colleagues and clients. Okay, so the reason that's important is because in a working environment, you have to understand that people are always watching you. Even when you think they're not, they're watching every single thing that you do. So it's always good to present yourself, like we said, professionally and build positive relationships wherever you work, even if you may not care too much for the place that you work. I mean, that happens to a lot of us. We go to work just because, hey, it pays the bills, but we're not excited about working here for one reason or another. That doesn't mean that you should diminish your professionalism. You still go to work, you still perform at a high level or at the highest level every single day. Because guess what's going to happen? Let's say you do find your dream job. Guess what you're going to need? You're going to need a reference, right? So you've been working at a company for 5 years, but every day you made it clear that, hey, this company sucks. I don't want to work here anymore. And that's your demeanor every day. Guess what? When you move on to another position, the position that you actually want, is your supervisor or your boss going to give you a good recommendation? What do you think? Does anybody want to chime in on that?
I will, Lafayette. Yeah, I mean, I cannot stress enough, and I think, in the military, being also, in the military veteran, I think that was one of the big things that I took away was being on time and being 15 minutes beforehand. I mean, I've had a lot of situations where I'm hiring someone and they're late, and granted, there are times when things happen, so I totally understand that, but being on time makes a huge difference, especially if you're there ahead of time, because that in itself says a lot about character in a person, and really sets a stage ahead of puts sets them in a stage where you're thinking, wow, they're eager, they're ready to learn, ready to grow, ready to start this new job. And that really does go a long way. So I totally agree with you on that. I mean, that is core.
I was
Yeah.
going to say that I got my first big promotion because someone gave me the advice, instead of showing up at 8 o'clock, show up at 7:30, because everyone that was in leadership was in the organization at 7:30. And as you were kind of mentioning, everyone notices. All the people that are in management and leadership notice. And what you're saying is as important to the new employee or the employee that's looking for advancement as it is for the leadership as well. We as leaders have to show up early to see who is the employees that are coming in early, that are moving the ball forward. And that's why I always say participating in teams gives you such a great opportunity to let people see how good you are. And by showing up early consistently, your leaders see how good you are by being on time, by doing your work, knowing you even exist. You can't promote someone or hire someone if you don't know they exist. And so I started coming in at 7:30, and within about a year of doing that, I was on the list, the top of the list to get relocated here to Atlanta. And it was all because of that one piece of advice. So you're so spot on.
Yeah, and I can share a personal experience with you about that too. The last position I had, I used to actually get in trouble for forgetting to clock in because I'd get there so early and start working. I was like, oh, God, I forget to clock in. You know what I mean? So even though I had to go to my boss and say, hey, can you reset this for me? I know she knew that I got there very early. So that's kind of the drawback based on, your work situation. But it's never a negative to be early to anything that you're doing. That should be your lifestyle, period. Whether it's personal, where if you're going to church, going to an event, whatever it is, be there early, never be behind the time. So yeah, All right, so I
You
guess,
know,
like I said, we could dive into that a little bit more. Does
well,
anyone
and
have
just to add on one thing, many of us now work remote, but you're still being tracked when you sign in and how active you are when you sign in.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind as well. It's not just the old traditional businesses where we went to work every day, but it is the same rules apply to online as they do to traditional.
Exactly, exactly. All right, so any of the students, do you guys have any feedback, any comment, any questions before we move on?
Yeah, I like to say something.
Here it comes.
So with me is if you're 15 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late. That's what I go. It's the old Vince Lombardi thing. Yep. So if you're 15 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late. So that's what I go through. Go to.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, so we'll keep it moving. So key elements. Now we talked about appearance briefly earlier. Dress appropriately for the workplace and the situation. Be neat, be clean, well groomed. I mean, that's self-explanatory. That's just simply taking pride in yourself and your appearance. Because again, even if you're working a minimum wage job, it doesn't mean that you should dress that way, right? So even if you have to have on whatever the brand is shirt, make sure that the shirt is pressed. Make sure that your pants, or for ladies, your dress or whatever attire you wear, make sure that it's pressed and you have a neat appearance. Your hair is combed, whatever you have to do to make sure that you're presentable every time that you go to work. Not just because Friday is a casual day means you're just going to let everything hang loose. Because remember, people are always watching. So I always believe lead by example. I'll give you a joke, right? So the last place that I worked, during the summertime, we're able to dress however we want to dress, jeans and t-shirt, whatever, blah, 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 right? But I always have my shirt, and I'm a polo type of person. So I always have whatever I'm wearing, shirt is always tucked in. So one day everybody started joking. They're like, oh my God, he has his shirt tucked out. And I was like the talk of the whole. Everybody's like, what? Because I pulled up my shirt just to, try to fit in with everybody else. And everybody started laughing because they've never seen me without my shirt tucked in, right? So dress appropriately in every position, no matter what the dress code is. You could still look somewhat professional. I always believe polo shirt at the very minimum, press jeans or press khakis. No matter how, no matter what the dress code is, always look nice. Make sure your shoes are clean, that type of stuff. So appearance is very important. Communication skills. Speak clearly and confidently. Be an active listener and be respectful of others' opinions. How we live our personal lives is how we live our work lives. And communication is a very important part of our personal lives as well as our business lives, right? So you have to learn how to communicate effectively. Now, communicating effectively is making sure, to put it in a short way, that the other person understands what you're trying to convey to them, right? And I always tell people that English is the international language of business. We all may have different dialects, we may have different, accents depending on where we come from, but English never changes. So do your best to speak English clearly and concisely. Excuse me, so that everyone can understand you. Oh, excuse me. And as you're moving through your career, you'll understand the importance of that, because when you get to a position where you're leading others, you definitely have to be able to speak clearly, right? Communication is very key, because that's one of the things that they will evaluate you on, right? Is how's your communication skill? Can you lead a group of people? Can you host a Zoom call, and be clear about what you're saying and making sure that everyone understands what's being conveyed to them. Does that make sense? All right, good. So demeanor, positive and enthusiastic. That should go without saying. We talked a little bit about that earlier. When you go into any role, it does not matter how you feel about the role that you're in, whether you think you deserve more money or you deserve to be in a higher position. It really doesn't matter. You have to remain professional at all times. So from the time, like I was mentioning, that you leave your vehicle to the time that you clock in, once you close your car door, that's when your professional self should show up. saying, okay, now I'm ready to work. I'm going to work, even if everything is falling apart at home or I have these issues or that. It doesn't matter. Always be professional. And if you have coworkers that care about you, they'll see that something is wrong, but you don't have to show them that something is wrong. You know, they'll say, oh, you know what? Let's leave Valerie alone today because she looked like she's having a bad day. You know, I used to work in work environments where if they see you're not smiling, they come and play some kind of practical joke on you and, you know, make you forget about what your problem is, right? Because you don't want to bring that to work with you. So if, you know, like I said, if you got to fake it for the 8 hours or however long you're at work, that's a part of being a professional, right? No one has to know what's really bothering you. You have to continue to do your job regardless. And if you're not able to do your job, don't go to work. Say, hey, listen, I need a personal day. I'm having some issues, or they have a new name for it now. I forget what it's called, like a mental health day. Yeah.
Mental health day, yeah. My daughter
Yeah.
asked me that. She's like, Mom, I need a mental health day from school. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Like what? Yeah, but sometimes you
you're
just need a break.
15."
Yeah, sometimes it's better for you to take that day than to go in and not be who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That has a worse effect than if you just say, look, I'm just not feeling it today. Please give me a mental health day. I'll be good tomorrow. There's no shame in that because you always want to put your best foot forward if your organization allows for that. You know, I'm not going to tell you calling sick because, you know, anyway, that's another story. So that's the meaner behavior. It goes back to professionalism. You know, be reliable, be punctual, be hardworking. And that's one of the most important things I want to talk about is work ethic. My belief, and I'm sure Val can vouch for this, my belief is when you go into any work environment, you should go in with, this is a military mentality, outwork and outperform everyone around you, right? And that doesn't mean you have to put down your coworker. It means that you're going to do your job to the best of your ability every single day that you are at work, right? So that's where work ethic comes in. You know, all right, I have 10 projects I have to do today. I'm going to knock it out. I'm going to knock out 11, 12 of them. You know, set high standards for yourself when you go to work. Don't ever just do the minimum because, again, you're being watched. Whether you think so or not, you're being watched. So always put your best foot forward. Be on time, be positive, have, you know, be honest and ethical. That's very important as well. If you make a mistake, own up to it. Everyone makes mistakes. No one of us is perfect. I don't care what your skill level is. I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how much work experience you have. We're all human beings. We all make mistakes. But the thing is, if you make a mistake, don't debate, don't argue about it. Just say, oh, I see what I did wrong. My apologies. I'll make sure that I take corrective action and it won't happen again. And that's what any employer, any boss wants to hear.
And I
Right?
think, when you own your mistakes, it
Mm.
says a lot about your character as well. I mean, because you're owning it, you're saying, I've learned from it, I'm going to grow from it, basically. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Know
just
what you didn't do well at and acknowledge it because everything in life is a learning experience.
mhm. Yeah, never be argumentative with your supervisor or your boss. Even if you think you're right, it doesn't matter. Your job is to do what they tell you to do. And if you're doing something other than that, of course they're going to get on you. You know, I heard one about a boss tell an employee one day, like, if you want to run your own show, go start your own company, which makes sense. You know, but as long as you're here, you're going to do what I tell you to do. And if it's wrong, the fault is on me, not you. Right. So follow instructions to the T. If you make a mistake, own up to the mistake. I apologize. I did not realize that. I'll make sure that I won't do it again, or I'll take corrective action and put it in writing too. Take it one step further. You know, send an email to your supervisor. Say, hey, I apologize for what I did today. Blah, blah, blah. Documentation is always good because when it's time for promotions and advancements and things like that, they'll have documentation to say, yeah, this is a responsible person. He or she owned up to whatever it was and they corrected it. And that's all anyone can ask for. So is that clear to anyone? Does anyone have any questions, any thoughts, any comments on that?
I'll just add, again, going back to that, the advice you're giving is as important to the individual, the new employee, as it is for the leaders. Leaders need to be the mentors. They need to be the ones that are giving your advice. And the fact that by dressing up You know, for every Zoom call, you'll never see me in a t-shirt, no matter what, you'll never know what I was wearing before. I could be on shorts and a t-shirt, but I'll never be on no matter when the Zoom call is, because people notice there's professionalism, and we need to teach that to the people that report to us. And because ultimately the way that you get promoted is when the people above you get promoted, and everyone then needs to backfill. So, you know, and also what you were talking about, communication is just remaining to be positive, the glass half full. You know, you can still provide differences of opinion by saying that was a great idea. Have we ever thought about this? But positivity is so important. So again, I love what you're saying, and I think it's so relevant to the younger employee, the middle manager, but also that the leaders need to be able to make sure they mentor and mold and let people understand, because ultimately the person that's doing the hard work, it's that person who's going to get the most reward out of it.
And just really quickly too, I want to add in there is you set the presence as a leader to your peers, right? So if they see you not dressed appropriately, then they follow that. So you want to lead with good impression. So that is something that I stress on is, you know, the way you are is how others see you and how they will be themselves, because going back to you are who you surround yourself with, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So can we hear from any of the students? Do you guys have any comments, any thoughts?
I actually have a question.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm working, so let me
No worries.
Okay, so with the new culture, you know, business being digital now, there is a new culture in like business attire, business casual, right? So can you maybe address like when is it appropriate to not come full suited? You know, what type of meetings is there? Is that like a real thing, or is that just people creating, you know, because it's been a while since I've been on an interview, but I'm a little older. So I'm from, you wear a two-piece, like a woman, you wear a suit, you don't wear high heels, you know, like that. You don't wear a lot of jewelry. You don't very calm makeup. But now in this, you know, the new industry, a lot of stuff is on Zoom. A lot of things are digital. Can you just kind of touch on that? Cause I'm really not, I guess I'm still in the dark ages. So.
It's not the dark ages. It's just that things have changed significantly. So the first thing is the obvious thing. Always dress for success. Okay. You know, you can be overdressed, but nobody can knock you for dressing professionally. And the second part to that is it depends on the work environment, right? So let's say for me, for example, you know, technologists typically wear, you know, polo shirts, you know, slacks. And dress shoes or some comfortable shoes. So that's what you call, you know, semi-professional. So if you're working in other environments, they may require you to wear a suit every day. Hopefully they're paying you good money so you can get those suits taken care of. But
they call business casual Lafayette.
Business casual. So yeah. So it depends on the work environment that you're in, and the position that you're applying for. Now, if you're applying for a professional organization, then definitely you want to wear something professional as you can get without overdressing, if that makes any sense, right? And a simple way to look at it is you can go on any company's website and they'll probably have pictures on there about, you know, employee events and stuff like that, so you can kind of get a vibe for the environment. So when you go to your interview, you're not too overdressed, but you're not underdressed either. But it's always better to be overdressed, right? Because at least they know that you're a professional, right? Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. And then when you get into that position, then you dress according to what the work environment requires. But the same rules apply. Clean, clean, clean. You know, if you're a guy, make sure that you're shaved, you know, and your hair is cut. Make sure that you look presentable. For a lady, just make sure you're not too erratic with the hairstyles. And, you know, they'll tell you, because a lot of company handbooks will say, hey, don't wear excessive cologne or perfume, or you don't want to be a distraction or something like that. But just if you're a professional, consider dressing as a professional every day. You don't have to have expensive clothes, but just look professional. You know what I mean? So it just depends on the work environment. So did I answer your question?
You did. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes it's not good to look better than the boss either. You can't wear a Armani suit to an interview and the boss barely has on, so
Right.
that may not be a good thing sometimes.
Right.
Like, you already
Thank
make too much money, I can't afford you.
But as the boss, if you have an important customer that's coming in, or even if you're meeting an important customer
Yeah.
through a Zoom call, that's the time as the boss to say, hey, this is important. Let's all maybe move a little bit one step up from dress casual. So I know we used to do that all the time. Whenever we knew we had someone important coming into the office, we would let everyone on the team know and make a really good presentation for your team, your staff, and your organization.
Exactly. Perfect. Does anyone else have any thoughts, comments, questions before we move on?
Back to dress code.
Yes, sir.
Over the years, I've seen a real shift away from suits. I'm sure everybody else has, but once upon a time, I used to have my suits and shirts made for me. And I used to fly a lot back and forth to LA, and it was interesting. Not only did the clients notice, but so did the airline, the flight attendants. They would compliment and say, "Wow, you don't see this too often." And so people do notice. I mean, it does help you stand out. And it's been a while since I've worn a suit to an event because there has been just a major shift. And one of the local universities that I deal with, the only place I see a suit and tie is in the president's office, nowhere else on campus. So, and sometimes it's hard to find that balance. I think, okay, I don't want to dress too far ahead of the crowd. But they do notice, and like I said, trying to find that balance can be a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, well, if you know the dress attire for your work environment is business casual, you definitely didn't want to wear a suit every day, because then people are going to start looking at you funny.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think you're better than us? Blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. And there goes the camaraderie. But your bosses might say, well, this guy takes pride in the way that he looks. So you have to balance. It depends on your work environment. You got to balance. But like I said, the example with casual Fridays, some people literally take it too far. I mean, they'll come in with tore up jeans, all kinds of this and all. I was like, that is not professional. Yes, I know it said casual Fridays, but what you wear represents who you are. Always think of that. This is a work environment, So yeah, you have to just kind of weigh it out. But as the old saying goes, dress for success. Keep that in mind, and you can't go wrong, period. All right. So any other thoughts before we move on? All right. So one more thing I wanted to cover before we leave this page is be adaptable. Now, be willing to learn new things and be flexible in your approach to work. Now, the average work environment, now, whether you're in technology or wherever you're working, there are always opportunities to learn new things, right? So if you get hired as, job A or role A, and then something happens in role B, and let's say that person's out for the day, and your boss, supervisor, whoever comes to you and say, hey, can you take on some of this workload, right? What would be your response? Your response should automatically be, yes, I'll be glad to take it on, even though it may be overwhelming, but take it on anyway, because it's an opportunity for you to learn something new and develop new skills. So that's where adaptability comes in, because the way that the professional world works, the more you know, the more valuable you are. Let's say you learn that person is out on, for whatever reason, for a week, and you've been doing their job for a week. Now you've acquired a new skill, which means now you're more valuable to that company. So let's say that person doesn't show up, they got a better job or whatever, and they're saying, okay, who can I put in this role? Oh, you, because you took on the responsibility and you learned it. And that's far better than me trying to pull somebody in off the street and train them, because you're already there. Let me add another 10,000 on your paycheck or whatever that number may be. So that's the value of being adaptable. Always be willing to work and learn new things, new skills, any opportunity that you get. I remember when I first got out of the military, one of my first jobs was working at Home Depot, right? And you know how many aisles Home Depot has, right? So I used to make it my point of duty to learn what's on every aisle. Now, do I have to be a professional plumber? No, but I could tell you where you can find this pipe. You know, if you want me to get somebody to help you, I could do that. Or I could tell you where to find this or what department it is, right? Because I always want to learn. And that's the attitude that you should have in any position or any role that you take on. Always be willing to take on other responsibilities, other roles, and improve your knowledge. Does that make sense? Thumbs up, everybody. Everybody still with me?
Good. Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right. I want to hear from the students. I'm not getting any activity from the students. All right, so we'll keep it moving. So developing a strong professional presence takes time, effort. You know, we said that already, but it will pay off in the end. Because if you develop a professional appearance, professional everything that you do, sky's the limit. Because even if you don't have the skills, people will be willing to train you to move you up because you have proven to them that you're willing to learn and that you're committed to the company or committed to the organization. So always have that demeanor in anything that you do, personal and professionally. But since we're talking about professionally, that's the way that you definitely want to go. All right. So I know time is going. How are we looking, Val?
We got about 15 more minutes.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. All right. So we talked about dressing appropriately, appearance, communication skills, demeanor. We just spoke about that. Behavior, be reliable, punctual, and hardworking. Self-explanatory. Meet your commitments and deadlines. All right. So this goes to responsibilities. Okay. A lot of times in work environments, things happen, right? You may have a project that your thought is, all right, when I get in today, I'm going to complete this project by 2 o'clock. But something else happens that throws you off and you might have to push it back. Well, how do you resolve that or how do you deal with that? Well, one simple way is to communicate with the person, your supervisor or whoever is in charge of that project and say, hey, this and this happened, so I'm not going to be able to complete this on time. What is my priority? Do I need to work on the new thing that you just gave me? Or do I need to continue working on this one? Because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to get it on time. And that's showing that you are responsible, right? And you take pride in the job that you do. So always have that kind of demeanor, that kind of behavior. Be honest and ethical with your dealings with others, especially your supervisors, right? You know, how many times have we been in a break room and people are telling stories and you just want to be a part of the story, so you're going to make something up. Don't do that. Be yourself. Be a professional. Be who you are, you know, because people judge you based on the way that you speak and the messages that you convey. And that's one of the great things about leadership is you always have to look at how are people looking at me? What are they learning from me? Right? So that's very important. So definitely. So confidence, believe in yourself and your abilities. You know, we always hear the saying, hey, fake it till you make it. Well, confidence is knowing that, listen, I don't have this skill set, but I'm going to learn. Right? And you pull as many resources as you have to pull to be able to learn, whether it's relying on a coworker, simple things as doing a Google search or looking on YouTube. I can't tell you how many times I had to Google stuff, had to look on YouTube for different things. And people say, well, you're the technician, you're supposed to know everything. I'm like, nobody knows everything. But I guarantee you somebody had the same problem. So let me do some research and see how they solve the problem. Right?
Go to your network to get some advice.
Yeah, exactly. But use your resources is basically what the point is. And there's no better resource than Google and YouTube. Trust me, there's no shame in that at all. No one knows everything. I don't care how you know, I always have the joke about the doctor going to Google. Let me look this up. When you're on the operating table, you know, how would you feel? You know what I mean? So anyways, yeah, that's just my crazy sense of humor. Anyway, yeah, so being honest and ethical in your dealings with others, confidence, always believe in yourself, professionalism, we've talked about that extensively, positivity, we talked about that as well. Always be positive when you are at work or in a working environment. It doesn't matter how you feel personally, you can still be positive. And the positive could be as simple as saying, good morning to everyone. Hey, how are you doing? Because you don't know how the other person is taking it. We used to, when I was in the Navy, we used to do some things that we didn't want to do. Let's put it that way. So when somebody calls you and somebody says, hey, Hamilton, how you doing today? I'm having a great Navy day. In other words, you know what I'm, I don't like what I'm doing right now, but I'm still gonna be professional. So my answer is always, I'm having a great Navy day. You know what I mean? So develop phrases, develop statements like that. So even when you're feeling down, you're still conveying something positive. Does that make sense? So that goes along with fake it till you make it, or fake it till 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? But just be professional in everything that you do and be positive.
My favorite statement is when someone asks how's it going, I just say unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, or you can use this one. Hey, I'm loving life. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. You know what I mean? Of course they're gonna say in their mind, you're so full of you know what, but it's all right, it's a positive statement. So it doesn't matter. Let's talk about proactiveness. Take initiative and be willing to go the extra mile. Being proactive basically means seeing something that could potentially be in a problem and addressing it, whether you fix it yourself or you bring it to the appropriate person's attention. Because again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about none of us being perfect. We all make mistakes. So if both of us are designing something and I see that you've done something wrong, then I'm going to go to Val and say, hey, Val, did you mean to do this? And she says, oh, man, I didn't see that. Thank you very much. And that builds your camaraderie, that builds the trust, because you don't have to have a cutthroat attitude where you work, which means, yeah, I'm just waiting for Valerie to mess up. You know what I mean? That's not productive at all. Be helpful. If you see someone doing something wrong, pull them to the side and say, hey, man, that's not how you do it. Or, hey, Tom, this is not how it's supposed to go. And if, depending on how they respond to you, oh, you're not the boss, or you're not this, you say, well, all right, okay, no problem. And you just lay off and let them, dig their own grave, for lack of a better word. But that's basically what it is. But always try to be proactive and solve problems, small problems, before they become bigger problems. That's what being proactive is about. That's about what taking initiative is about, right? So what, one day you didn't finish on time and you got to stay late. If they allow you to, clock out and finish your work. Call your family, say, hey, I'm running about 15, 20 minutes late. All right, I'll be there, right? And finish your work. I've had times where I clocked out. I went to my director and said, hey, I have a thing that I'm working on. Is it okay if I stay late? Because sometimes they'll tell you, yeah, you can get overtime. Sometimes they say, no overtime, but the work still needs to be done, right? And if it's your responsibility, they don't care. All they want to know is that the task that you've been assigned is done. So how do you deal with that? You let your supervisor, your boss, or whoever know, hey, didn't get it done on time because I had too many things to do, but I'm willing to put in, 30 minutes to try and catch up or get ahead of the day tomorrow. That's where your communication comes into play, right? And if they say no, you can't work late, or no, you can't do that because it's against company policy, well, at least you tried, right? And that shows your sense of responsibility. So that's what proactiveness is all about. Does anyone have any questions, any thoughts on this slide? I know we're going kind of fast because
I was going to say, I have three sayings that I use all the time. Step up, move up.
Mhm.
The other one is be adaptable or be blockbuster. And then the final one is praise in public and discuss challenges in private. And I think all of those kind of tie to so much of what you're discussing here. Again, from both an employee, a new employee, middle management, or upper management, we have to think in those terms. And everything you're sharing here is just so valuable for every level of employment.
Exactly. Thank you, sir. One of the students, do y'all guys have any questions, any thoughts, comments? Thomas?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, so going back on the confidence and everything. So the position I'm at a law firm I'm at is a master's level position, but my experience and my confidence that I have, they trusted me in what I'm doing, that I'm doing what master's level, school level would do. And it's confidence is key, is what my dad used to tell me. And it's all about confidence and all about knowing what you're worth. Know your worth is what I always tell people. And I agree with everything you said. You know, work late. Like I'm at work right now. So, but you know, confidence is key and know your worth. And, you know, I agree with everything that you're saying. And it's awesome to see it all laid out the way that you just laid it out. So that's awesome.
Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. Does anyone else have any thoughts, comments? Don't be shy. All right, we'll just keep it moving. Okay, what is ORM? Online Reputation Management. Now, we talked about the older generation and we talked about the new generation. So I'm going to say this very simply. If you are a professional, you must have a professional presence online. Period. End of story. Now, we all can be whoever we want to be, you know, with our other personality, but we must have a professional online presence because number one, all employers are going to check your social profiles. Period. There's so many tools out there. I could push a button and find out everything about you, right? All of the ghost people that you pretend to be and all of this, right? So when as an employer, when I'm making a decision as if I'm going to give this person a chance, that's what I'm looking at. Yes, you can do whatever you want after you leave work, but also remember that you're representing my company, whether you're at work or not at work, right? So I used to work for an organization when they said, don't post anything negative on social media, nothing. Don't put that I was in a bar. Don't put that I have a cigarette. Don't. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But then again, think of it. With high pay come high expectations. So you have to present yourself professionally at all times, right? One of the key ways, LinkedIn, right? Do you have a LinkedIn profile? If you don't, you need to create one and you need to make it active. Because if you're looking for a position or a role, any and every employer is going to look for a LinkedIn profile. They're going to see who you're associated with, what you have done, what education you have, what associations you have, and that contributes to the hiring decision that they will make, right? Many of us have different personalities. I get that. But make sure that you maintain your professional online presence. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't want to beat that in the ground because everybody understands what I'm talking about.
I think this is my favorite slide because it's so much more difficult today to basically establish, you know, when it comes to your online presence, that is the first place people go to is your profiles. What are you on? Who are you following? Who are you connected with? That is a way that a lot of recruiters, employers, as you mentioned, Lafayette, will be snooping on your stuff to see what you have going on. So for me, like LinkedIn, by all means, yes, it is definitely keep it professional because that is where they're looking and making sure I want to add to having a network of connections that are able to give you those references. One thing that I know we stress heavily with Nethubb is having those endorsements. I
Yes.
stress that because people want to know, like, what are your skills? Can somebody vouch for you? Word of mouth is powerful. So all the time, whenever you work for someone or even if you've left a position and you left in great standing, ask for a referral, ask them to endorse you, to endorse your profile, give you a review. That goes a long, long way. And I know with us, we heavily stress that on the students as I'm working with students. I'm giving them endorsements because they need to start building their presence, what skills they have, and those referrals go a long way. If you think about it, you go to Yelp to look at what restaurants are great and what everybody else is saying. If you have a great presence online and those endorsements, those go a long, long way.
Excuse me, Miss Valerie and Mr. Lafayette. I
Yes.
think Facebook plays a major role in how you present yourself too, because you got to remember when you go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, all that is public. So especially if you're working for a company, I know when I first started Nethubb, I had to change up what I put on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And it was like my mom gave me the talk before I got hired because she wanted to make sure I was completely professional with Nethubb and that there was nothing that was going to interrupt or disrupt my employment with the organization. And I think that plays a major part. So it's not just Facebook, it's not just Instagram, it's not just LinkedIn, it's every major platform that you are on when you're dealing with Strayer or any other school, vice versa.
Absolutely. Perfect.
Yeah, good point. Good point. You know, the one thing I would add there, and I teach digital marketing, and I always stress the point is that if you're not online, if I don't know you exist, how can I buy from you? And as a student, as myself, I always think of myself as my own business. And so we have to be online because even if someone recommends a dentist to me, I'm going to go online and see what the dentist is all about. Even if you apply for the job, the first thing we're going to do as human resource or as the hiring manager is going to go look online. And so we have to present ourselves. And if you're not online, they can't search, you're probably not going to get the interview. If you have a great online presence, that may move you up from maybe only getting 1 out of 10 interviews to 5 out of 10 interviews. So we're so focused, and that's such a major focus on Strayer as Student Inc. We have to think of ourselves as our own business.
Or think of yourself as a brand. Right?
Yes, brand awareness is important, not just with a company, but with yourself.
Exactly, because you are your brand. All right, so time is upon us, so I'm going to kind of run through the rest of them. A lot of this is repetitive communication skills, time management. We talked about that in depth. Problem solving skills, having analytical skills is very important. Even if you're not an analytical person, use your resources. Now we have artificial intelligence. You could put anything in a prompt and it'll answer the question for you. So utilize your resources. All right. Networking is very important. Connect with people that are like-minded, people that are positive, people that are productive. Those are the people that you want to network with. Okay. Leadership, always strive to be a leader. Even if you're not a natural born leader, that's something that you could learn over time. So that should always be your objective. All right. Adaptability, we spoke about that. Emotional intelligence, understanding and managing emotions, empathy, and building strong interpersonal relationships. That kind of goes back to what I was saying about the communication and how you carry yourself in general. Financial literacy, we could talk about that all day long. But the most important thing I would say is when you're entering the working environment, always maintain your credit as best as you can, because a lot of employers are looking at your credit history. And you're going to ask yourself, why does my credit matter? Well, it has to do with trust and responsibility, right? And always remember this, with higher pay comes higher responsibility. So that's what employers look for. If you're going for a 6-figure job, they want to know everything about you, everything about you. So keep that in mind. Manage your finances. If you don't know how to do it, there are all kinds of resources for free out there that can teach you, all kinds of tools that can help you with that. All right. Professional etiquette, we talked about that. Digital skills, you have to be professional. You have to be proficient with computers, not just on your phone. You can't really conduct solid business on your phone. Yes, you can get some things done, but ultimately to be a professional, you need to have computer skills. So if you don't already have skills, you need to work on improving those skills. So thank you so much for your time and your attention. I'm always here as a coach. Like I said, Val can give you more information on that. And with that being said, if no one has any more questions, does anyone have any other questions or thoughts before I turn it back over to Val?
The only thing that I wanted to do to wrap it up from my perspective is, as you say, the technical skills. Now is the time to start looking for artificial intelligence knowledge and how those new tools can help you become more efficient. And the other thing for you with Valerie, as I've mentioned in Business 399, when we get to week 9, 10, and 11, it's all about online reputation management and online reputation development. And maybe we could even do another 30 or 45-minute meeting on that in week 9 that would just really address that. Like you said, that slide is a powerful slide, and I'd love to spend more time on that.
We can also reference, examples of what a good online presence is, what that looks like as far as your profile, what an ideal profile should look like. That goes a long way. So it gives you some reference points. And of course, open it up for more questions from the students in case there's any, questions it relates to, uncertainties about certain things. So absolutely.
All right, very nice. All right, thank you everyone for your
Oh,
attention.
one last thing. Okay, so really quickly, I'm just going to wrap it up. As far as NetHub is concerned, if you want more time with Lafayette, you can go into NetHub into our courses, and you can register some time with him, some coaching time. And also, if Lafayette, if you go to the next slide real quickly.
Yes.
Please. If you haven't already registered on NetHub, please do so. Sign up. It's completely free to sign up. I'm also giving out the student memberships to be part of 3 organizations for Strayer. So I sent over to Dr. Ruther the link where you can go to get your student membership to be part of 3 organizations, which we'll cover a little bit more later in the course as well. But keep in mind, this is a great way for you to build your network, connecting with organizations that you're curious about, organizations that you're thinking about joining, but not sure about. You can learn more about that industry, the people in that industry, and the opportunities that come with it. So again, please make sure you create your profile on NetHub and go to the Strayer School website on our site and request a membership, and I'll give it to you for free on my end, on the back end of the site.
Well, that's awesome. That's why we're so happy to be working with you guys. What I will be doing is I've already sent out this the Strayer access to Business 399. But when I send out this video, I'll send out the link to the other students that either could attend or the other students that would be watching the video. So it is, as I've mentioned to the students in Business 399, what I find so valuable about NetHub is that no matter what we're studying, it could be human resources, could be marketing, could be project management, could be IT, we can get a lot of research on the theoretical things going to the Strayer Library. But when we go through NetHub, we can get connected to SHRM, we can get it connected to the American Marketing Association, American Management Association, IT associations, project management associations, whatever your main focus is. And inside those associations, they have so much research on what is actually happening today by the people in that industry. So by just signing up with NetHub, you get access to 3 associations that you can focus on and really learn what's going on in your industry today. So I will be sending that link out to everyone tomorrow. And it's exactly how I did all my research when I went back to for my doctorate degree. There was not a lot of information on digital marketing and digital entrepreneurship in textbooks in 2009-10. I spent all of my time in the association seeing exactly what they were doing in marketing, because that's where all the forefront information, knowledge, and research was being done. And so it's so important, no matter where you're at your career, to be engaged with these associations. So and Valerie Lafayette, thank you so much for putting this on. We will make sure we share all this information. And then tomorrow, as soon as I send out the link, I would suggest you click on it and join NetHub.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.